Where? Oh no! Wait! Turn. Nope. Stairs. Go. Almost there.
The Strangers are back. Released back in 2025, the second chapter of Rennie Harlan's The Strangers trilogy was released, continuing the story of Maya, the sole survivor of Those That Pray at Night. And the Strangers aren't exactly happy that she's managed to stay alive all this time, so before she can leave the hospital with a clean bill of health, the Strangers show up at the hospital to kill her while she's still there. She manages to get out, but they are always one step behind. How long can she manage to escape their clutches this time? And can she really trust anybody she runs into along the way? I mean, what if these people or those people are really the Strangers unmasked? How will she ever learn to trust again? I chose this film to be the next part of my 52-week horror movie challenge under week 22nd's prompt, a horror sequel. I figured what better sequel to watch than to watch a sequel of a horror film that I've already covered for this challenge. So a few weeks ago, I did cover chapter 1, and like most people, I saw that movie as incredibly mediocre, boring, bland, not all that great. I don't think that it deserved all the hate that it got. I think for what it sought to do, it did, and it did it just fine. But for the most part, I was never going to revisit the series at all. For the most part, it was just a remake of the 2008 film, and a poor one at that. So needless to say, I wasn't exactly very curious or excited to watch the chapter 2. With that being said, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because I get a lot of hate on my channel sometimes because I have a lot of hot takes. And to be honest, I enjoyed this movie. I had a good time with it and I wouldn't mind rewatching it. It's not a perfect film, not by a long shot, but I do think that it's just dumb fun. It kind of embraced what it is, and it's just like a wild ride that never fully comes to a stop. So let's talk about the positives for The Strangers Part 2. I think the biggest thing here is the shift in genres. If you watch the first part, you're gonna notice one thing. It's basically a stalker movie. So these characters play games with the victims. They make them feel at edge. They bring them up to the brink until they finally just put them out of their misery. That's what the Strangers are known for. That's how I know them. However, that's not what they are in this movie. In this movie, we're skipping all the stalker stuff. Instead, it's switching gears. It's no longer a stalker horror film. Now it is a slasher horror film. And this is probably where my hot take kind of comes into play here because I think that it's a much more fitting genre than what we got in chapter 1. So unlike the first movie, there's no toying with emotions. There's no tormenting these people from afar. It just dials in on the action up to 11, basically right from the first scene of the movie, and then it just kind of never lets you go from that point forward. This girl narrowly escapes being brutally murdered at multiple points throughout the film. She gets out of one room, and then she gets into another room. The Strangers are right there behind her, and I was fully expecting them to kill her at some point as some kind of plot twist before we're introduced to a different character, but it never really happens. We keep following her character as she narrowly escapes being killed over and over again. That's the movie. It is as simple and as straightforward as a plot can get for a movie. But in my opinion, that's ultimately what makes the movie work. It's just nonstop insanity. In general, this is Slasher 101, and it's a pretty solid variation of it. At no point does it ever feel like it runs a little bit stale or runs out of ideas of where she should go to hide. She's always doing something. She's always running into the next spot to potentially hide. She's even running into people that might provide her safe passage, but she can't fully trust them because the Strangers have masks, so she doesn't know what they look like under the mask. So the people that she runs into could potentially be the Strangers in disguise. I thought that was really cool. And thankfully, there's actually some room to breathe throughout the film. Not many, mind you, but just enough. You wouldn't think there would be because so much is happening all at once, so much action, so much insanity, but there are moments where she takes a breath to think about what she's gonna do next. It doesn't give you a lot of this because, 10 to 30 seconds later, the Strangers are there again. High octane stuff. I mean, I'll dig myself into a grave a little bit further here and talk about Evil Dead Rise, which I covered even further ago, which was also non-stop action. Just non-stop stuff happening all at once. The only difference between this and that in regards to its pacing is Evil Dead Rise didn't really allow you to breathe. It didn't give you that emotional depth that you needed, because in that movie you had a mother who was possessed attacking her kids, which presents a really grand idea of kids fighting an inner battle about what they should do because it's their mom that they're fighting. Instead, it dealt with things pretty matter-of-factly. They just got to do what they got to do. It was kind of numb to me for that movie. It's a great movie. It's very entertaining, but that specific part felt numb. I actually felt some emotional depth with this movie. That's mostly due to our lead actress here. I keep forgetting her name, but just like the first movie, she was great in the first movie. In the second movie, she is the standout as well. I am really glad that we don't really get to see too much of her boyfriend character because he died in the first movie and he was incredibly annoying and one of the worst parts of that movie. She does all right. This is also another movie that has very little dialogue because it is putting action forward first. There is dialogue, but I think only enough dialogue for you to understand when things change from one point to the next, and they can't do that through action. This, I think, was a strong choice. I think when it comes down to emotional beats, movies that require a lot of emotion or a lot of action do a lot better when it's not bogged down by dialogue and exposition and anything like that. This movie excels because it doesn't focus too much on dialogue. So I actually like that a lot with this movie. It also makes me think about a potential third movie. I know that there is a third movie coming out. I don't know anything about it. I didn't look into it. But it makes me wonder, if I were to direct this series and the first movie was a stalker type of thing, the second movie was a slasher type of thing, what would I do with a third movie? Personally, I think that I would do more of a Home Alone type of thing where I trick the strangers themselves, where I become the stranger and I attack them or I torment them, coming kind of full circle. That can work. That can really put everything together in a way that makes the most sense. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. But if that's the direction that they're going with genre swapping, I could see them doing that. And before I start going into the negatives or anything like that, I did want to mention the PTSD focus on in the film. Maya has been attacked ruthlessly by the strangers in the first film. And so that's all she can think about throughout the runtime of this movie. She's still stuck on the events that happened prior. And because of that, she kind of has PTSD. She can't trust anybody because who the heck is under these masks, right? So when these people pick her up in the car and they're trying to help her, they have medical supplies, they have all this, she just can't trust that they are who they say they are. I thought that that was a really nice addition throughout the film. Because as an audience member, you're pretty sure that the people who pick her up are probably innocent, but you have absolutely nothing to back that up with. So maybe she's right, you know? So I really like that part of the movie. Moving on to the negatives, I think the biggest thing here is the illogical choices that are made basically from beginning to end. I mean, this is a movie that 100% sacrifices smart choices for fun action romp stuff. What do I mean by that? I mean, just right from the get-go, the hospital scene, when the strangers are tracking her throughout all these different hallways of the abandoned hospital. My question is, why is it abandoned? I mean, have you ever in your life seen an abandoned hospital other than maybe a paranormal reality show or 28 Days Later or The Walking Dead or something? It just doesn't happen. They are 24/7 operated and they are overrun by doctors, nurses, patients, what have you. Yet she wakes up and the entire place is shut down and it's abandoned, and I'm assuming that the strangers had something to do with that. Maybe they killed everybody in the entire hospital and then shut it down. You don't really see that if that is the case, but still, even that's an illogical choice. How can these three strangers kill hundreds of people in a hospital and not have one person call the police in the meantime? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's not where the illogical choices stop either. Just the mere fact that the strangers themselves show up wherever Maya is doesn't make a lick of sense. Do they have a tracker beacon on her? Maybe. How do they show up as quick as they do? That's another question. Are they teleporting? Maybe they're teleporting. You know? It's all these things that are happening all at once. Even most of the characters throughout the film have cell phones that work most of the time until it's convenient enough not for them to work. So that's a trope. It's a horror trope, but it's used multiple times in this movie, which is silly. Again, a lot of this is tropes. A lot of this is slasher tropes specifically. If you watch movies from way back when, the 80s and stuff like that. A lot of these happened in those movies as well. Like Michael Myers, he showed up everywhere as well. How the heck does he show up where he shows up as quick as he shows up? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And this movie is kind of piggybacking off of a lot of those illogical choices as well, sacrificing logic for tension. Another negative I've seen people point out are there's this subplot with hogs in the wild. So when she's hiding out in the woods and the strangers aren't actually there for once, they still manage to attack her, this time with like violent hogs. Now this complaint reminds me a lot about Hulk 2003 with the mutant poodles. I think people complained a lot about that. People complain a lot about this. I didn't mind this one either. I think that it made enough sense. I mean, getting attacked by a wild animal in the wilderness, we've seen that a lot of times. I mean, nobody complained about a bear attacking Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant, but here we are. No, this was a hog, not a bear. I get it, but still, I think it worked. I will tell you my main complaint that I actually have. My actual negative for the film would be the flashbacks that they had throughout the film where we get to see the strangers themselves as children and kind of what happened in their lives to ultimately make them the way they are. Or maybe they were always that way, you know? Maybe they're just a bad seed all around. I appreciate what they were doing with these flashbacks, but if anything was watering the plot thin or slowing things down to a way that doesn't work so much for the pacing, it would be those flashbacks. That's all I'm saying. Other than that, I think the movie as a whole is just made to be a dumb, fun time. It's not meant to win a bunch of awards or be the best horror film you've ever seen or the best slasher film you've ever seen. It's not meant to be any of that. It's just meant to be dumb. It's meant to be fun. It's supposed to be something that you can sit there, eat your popcorn, and enjoy and laugh at if you want. It's just one of those types of movies. It's kind of like when I watched A Child's Play, or specifically the Of Chucky movies, where you watch those where it's just kind of embracing the absurdity of itself and you just have a good time with it. That's how I see these movies, okay? That's how I see The Stranger Chapter 2, and I hope they carry that same atmosphere ultimately into Chapter 3. That's what I'm hoping for. It might not happen. In fact, there's more likely a chance it won't do it that way, but I'm just hoping it does. What did I score The Strangers Chapter 2? 83 out of 100 possible stars. 83%, 4 out of 5. That's what I'm rating it. But guys, what do you guys think about The Strangers Chapter 2? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you like everybody else? Do you follow the sheep and hate this movie because everybody else hates it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review, whenever or whatever it may be on. And until that day comes, peace out.